The Treaty Hall of Eternal Remembrance stood on the border between human and Vexkari territory, a monument to the ceasefire that had held for exactly 364 days. Tomorrow, if nothing changed, it would become a monument to failure. I stood in the observation gallery, watching the delegates from both sides arrange themselves across the massive circular table like chess pieces preparing for endgame. The human contingent wore their dress uniforms, all sharp angles and military precision. The Vexkari delegation moved with the fluid grace of their species, their iridescent skin shifting through colors that my cultural training had taught me to read, deep purples and grays that signaled suspicion, anger, and the readiness for violence. The war was meant to continue. Everyone in that room knew it. The ceasefire had been nothing more than a pause, a chance for both sides to regroup, rearm, and prepare for the next phase of a conflict that had already claimed billions of lives across a dozen star systems. Everyone wanted it to continue except me. And her. "You're thinking too loud again," a melodic voice said beside me, speaking in accented standard. "I can practically hear your thoughts from here, Marcus." I turned to see Sha'ari standing in the doorway, her security detail waiting respectfully in the corridor. She wore the formal robes of a Vexkari princess, layers of living fabric that responded to her emotions, currently swirling with the same anxious grays and purples I'd seen on the delegates below. She was breathtaking as always. Her skin held the distinctive deep blue of Vexkari royalty, with patterns of silver that seemed to flow like water across her exposed arms and throat. Her hair, actually thousands of fine sensory tendrils, was bound in an elaborate style that denoted her status, shifting from midnight blue to silver at the tips. Her eyes, large and expressive, held that distinctive violet hue that had first captivated me 2 years ago, before the war, before everything changed. "They're going to reject the treaty," I said quietly. "Both sides, I can see it on their faces." She moved to stand beside me, close enough that I could smell the sweet spice scent that was uniquely Vexkari, uniquely hers. "Of course they will. The military commanders want to finish what they started. The politicians need an enemy to unite their people. The weapons manufacturers are making fortunes. Everyone benefits from continued war. Except the people dying in it." "Except them," she agreed softly. We stood in silence, watching the delegates take their positions. Admiral Harrison led the human contingent, a decorated war hero who'd made his career on anti-Vexkari campaigns. Across from him sat war leader Kexther, Sha'ari's uncle, whose clan had lost 3 generations to human weapons. They hated each other with the kind of passion that could only come from having killed each other's people for decades. "My father is in that room," Sha'ari said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Emperor Vexrin, the eternal flame, holder of the throne of 10,000 suns. He's going to stand up in approximately 12 minutes and formally declare the ceasefire ended. Our intelligence confirmed it this morning. President Chen will do the same thing," I replied. "The Joint Chiefs have been pushing for it for months. They think they can win decisively this time with the new plasma weapons. The Vexkari military believes the same thing about our dimensional disruption technology. So billions more die, entire worlds burn, and in another 10 years maybe one side wins, or maybe we just keep killing each other until there's nothing left worth fighting for." She turned to look at me, her hand finding mine. Her skin was warm, the silver patterns pulsing gently where we touched, a biological response to emotion that I'd learned meant affection, trust, and love. "There is another way," she said, "the path we discussed. The path that will probably get us both killed or imprisoned." "Yes, that path," her lips curved in a sad smile. "Are you having second thoughts, my husband?" I looked at her, this alien princess who'd become my wife in a secret ceremony that neither of our governments recognized, whose people were officially my sworn enemies and whom I loved more than my own life. No second thoughts, I said firmly, but we need to be ready. Once we do this, there's no going back. I know, she squeezed my hand. My security team is prepared. They're loyal to me, not to my father's war. They'll support us. Captain Rodriguez is on board too. She thinks we're insane, but she'll back our play. Then we're as ready as we'll ever be. Below us, the delegates were settling into their positions. Neutral mediators from the Confederation of Free Worlds took their places, already looking defeated. They knew what was coming. Tell me the story again, Sha'ari said suddenly. About how we met. I need to remember why we're doing this. I smiled despite the tension. You really want to hear it now, especially now. So I told her, watching the delegates below as I spoke. 2 years ago, I'd been a junior diplomat assigned to the first peace talks after the Battle of Kepler Station, the bloodiest engagement of the war, where both sides lost so many ships that casualty counts were still being calculated months later. The talks were held on neutral ground, supervised by the Confederation and doomed from the start. I was nobody important, a translator really, whose job was to facilitate communication and take notes. Sha'ari had been part of her father's delegation, a princess learning statecraft by observing her empire's diplomacy. We'd met in the garden outside the conference center, both of us escaping the poisonous atmosphere inside. She'd been crying, her skin cycling through colors of grief and despair. I'd offered her a tissue, a human gesture she didn't understand but appreciated, and we'd started talking. Just talking. About the war, about the senselessness, about the people we'd lost. Her older brother had died at Kepler Station. My younger sister had died in a Vexkari raid on a civilian transport. We should have hated each other. Instead, we recognized something. A shared exhaustion with the violence, a desperate hope that there had to be another way, a connection that transcended species and politics. We met again the next day and the next, always in secret, always careful. The peace talks failed, as everyone knew they would, but Sha'ari and I continued our private conversations through encrypted channels. Friendship became something deeper, understanding became trust, trust became love. 9 months ago, we'd married in a ceremony on a neutral station, witnessed only by a Confederation chaplain and 2 friends who were risking their careers by attending. It wasn't legal by either of our government standards. We couldn't live together, couldn't acknowledge our relationship publicly, couldn't even risk being seen in the same place. But we were married nonetheless. And we'd made a plan, a desperate, possibly suicidal plan, to stop the war the only way we could think of. By making it impossible to ignore what war really meant. They're starting, Sha'ari said, pulling me back to the present. Below, Emperor Vexrin rose from his seat, his skin blazed with the deep crimson of righteous anger, his voice carrying through the hall even though I couldn't make out the words from this distance. He's recounting the grievances, Sha'ari translated. The human attacks on colony worlds, the massacre at Vexter Prime, the children killed in orbital bombardments. He's building to the declaration. President Chen was leaning forward, his face hard as stone. Admiral Harrison whispered something to him and Chen nodded sharply. This is it, I said. Are you ready? Sha'ari took a deep breath, her colors shifting to something I'd rarely seen, a bright, clear blue shot through with gold, determination, courage, hope. I'm ready. I love you, Marcus Webb. I love you, Sha'ari Vexrin. Let's go stop a war. We left the observation gallery, our security teams falling in around us. Captain Rodriguez met us in the corridor, her face grim but resolved. The doors are sealed on my authority, she said. No one gets in or out until you're done. The transmission equipment is set up. The comm satellites are in position. Every major news network in human space and Vexkari territory will receive the broadcast simultaneously. How long do we have? I asked. 10 minutes, maybe 15 before someone overrides my lockdown. Make it count. We moved quickly, taking a service corridor that led directly to the main floor of the treaty hall. Behind us, I could hear Sha'ari's security commander, a veteran warrior named Toreth, speaking rapidly into his communicator in Vexkari. He's informing the Vexkari security that I'm safe and acting of my own free will, Sha'ari explained. It should prevent them from immediately attacking you. Should. Nothing is guaranteed in this plan, my love, you know that. We emerged onto the main floor just as Emperor Vexrin was building to his crescendo. His words carried through the hall, powered by the acoustic design that ensured every voice could be heard clearly. And therefore, the Vexkari Empire hereby declares this ceasefire null and void. We return to a state of war to be prosecuted until such time as no. My voice cut through the hall, amplified by the portable transmitter Rodriguez had provided. Every eye in the room turned to us. No, I repeated, walking forward with Sha'ari at my side, our hands clasped together. The war does not continue, not today, not ever again. The hall erupted. Delegates surged to their feet. Security personnel reached for weapons. Admiral Harrison's face went purple with rage. Marcus Webb, President Chen's voice thundered. You are in violation of, I am in violation of nothing, I interrupted, and that was when Rodriguez triggered the broadcast. Suddenly our images were being transmitted across human and Vexkari space to every news network, every military frequency, every government channel. Billions would be watching. I am exercising my right as a citizen to speak truth, and the truth is this war is a lie. You dare? Emperor Vexrin started, his skin blazing red. Father, please. Sha'ari's voice was calm, controlled, but it carried. Listen, just listen. Something in her tone stopped him. Maybe it was the fact that she'd called him father, not emperor or highness. Maybe it was the color of her skin, which now glowed with that clear blue and gold, colors that in Vexkari culture signified absolute truth-telling. You all want this war to continue, I said, addressing the room and the cameras. The military leaders want it because it gives them power, purpose, and promotion. The politicians want it because it unites their populations against a common enemy. The corporations want it because war is profitable. How dare you accuse, Admiral Harrison began. I accuse everyone, my voice rose. Every person in this room who spent the last year sabotaging peace efforts. Every politician who stirred up hatred for political gain. Every military leader who's convinced themselves the next offensive will finally win the war. Is every citizen who's accepted the propaganda without questioning it. The Vexkari started this war, someone shouted from the human delegation. Humans fired first, a Vexkari delegate roared back. It doesn't matter. Sha'ari's voice cut through the chaos, and I was reminded that she was a princess of a warrior culture trained from birth to command. It doesn't matter who started it, it doesn't matter who's winning. All that matters is how many more people have to die before we admit this is insanity. She stepped forward, her robes swirling with colors that broadcast her emotions to everyone watching. I am Sha'ari Vexrin, fourth daughter of Emperor Vexrin, princess of the eternal throne. I was raised to hate humans. I was taught that they were inferior, barbaric, worthy only of conquest or extinction. I believed those lies until I met one human who showed me they were wrong. She turned to look at me, and her smile was radiant. Marcus Webb taught me that humans feel loss as deeply as Vexkari, that they love their children as fiercely as we do, that they dream of peace just as desperately. He taught me that everything I'd been told about his species was propaganda designed to make it easier to kill them. I took her hand again, facing the cameras. And Sha'ari taught me the same thing about the Vexkari. I was raised on stories of alien monsters, of inhuman cruelty, of an enemy that could never be reasoned with. All lies. The Vexkari are people, different from us, yes, but people nonetheless. They mourn their dead, they fear for their children. They want the same things humans want: safety, prosperity, a future. This is treason, Admiral Harrison snarled. No, Captain Rodriguez said, stepping forward. This is courage, the courage to speak truth when everyone wants comfortable lies. Sha'ari, Emperor Vexrin's voice was dangerously quiet. Step away from the human, you don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying, Father. Her colors shifted, a pattern of intertwined blue and gold that I'd only seen once before at our wedding. Marcus Webb is not just a human I met at peace talks. He is my husband. We were married 9 months ago in a ceremony that honored both our traditions. I love him. And because I love him, I cannot stand by while our people try to kill each other. The hall exploded. Weapons were drawn, security teams moved, but Sha'ari's guards formed a protective circle around us, and Rodriguez's squad did the same. You married a human. Emperor Vexrin's skin had gone almost black with rage and shock. I married a good man who happens to be human, Sha'ari corrected. And in doing so, I proved that everything about this war is based on the lie that we cannot coexist. But we can, we do. Marcus and I are living proof. I addressed the cameras again, knowing this was our only chance. Every person watching this broadcast needs to understand something. The leaders in this room want the war to continue because they benefit from it. But you don't. The soldiers dying in space don't benefit. The families losing loved ones don't benefit. The colonies being destroyed don't benefit. They're counting on you to keep hating each other, Sha'ari added, to keep believing that peace is impossible, that the other side is monstrous, that victory through violence is the only option. But it's not. Peace is possible. We prove it. We're not saying there aren't real differences between our species, I continued. We're not saying centuries of conflict can be erased overnight. We're saying that if a human man and a Vexkari woman can find common ground, can build something together, can love each other despite everything that says they should be enemies, then our species can find peace. But only if you demand it, Sha'ari said. Demand that your leaders negotiate in good faith. Demand that they stop lying to you about the enemy. Demand that they value life, all life, human and Vexkari, over pride and power and profit. Emperor Vexrin stood slowly, his entire body radiating fury. You have betrayed your people, your culture, your blood. You are no longer my daughter. Sha'ari's colors flickered, a flash of pain, but she stood firm. If loving someone from another species makes me a traitor, then I accept that title. But I will not accept responsibility for this war continuing. That's on you, Father, on all of you. President Chen's face was unreadable. Marcus Webb, you will be arrested and tried for treason. Maybe, I said, but first, answer one question. Why are you so afraid of peace? I'm not afraid. You are, all of you are, because peace means you lose power. Peace means you have to face what you've done, all the deaths you're responsible for. Peace means you can't hide behind patriotism and necessity anymore. War is easy. Peace requires actually caring about people who don't look like you. Admiral Harrison moved forward, his hand on his sidearm. This ends now. Yes, it does, a new voice said. War leader Kexther stepped forward and the room froze. He was the most decorated Vexkari military commander, responsible for dozens of human defeats. If anyone should want the war to continue, it was him. I have served the Empire for 40 cycles, Kexther said, his colors muted, grays and whites that signified deep contemplation. I have lost my mate, my children, and my grandchildren to this war. I have killed more humans than I can count, and I am tired. Looked at Sha'ari and me. When I learned my niece had married a human, I thought she had gone mad. I demanded her execution, but then I watched this broadcast and I realized something. My entire family is dead because of this war. If Sha'ari can find happiness with this human, if she can build something instead of destroy, if she can offer hope instead of vengeance, then maybe she is not the mad one, maybe we are. He turned to face the Vexkari delegation. I will not fight another battle. I will not kill another human. I will not sacrifice another generation to pride and hatred. If that makes me a traitor, then let me join Princess Sha'ari in that title. The room erupted in chaos. But through it all, I heard other voices joining: a human captain, a Vexkari counselor, a junior diplomat from both sides. Not everyone, not even most, but enough to plant the seed of doubt, enough to make continuing the war just a little bit harder. Rodriguez lined in close. We need to go now. The broadcast is still live, but they're going to shut it down any second. I looked at Sha'ari. Together, always, she said. We backed toward the exit, our security teams covering us, the chaos of the treaty hall erupting around us. Through the cameras, billions watched, and I knew that not all of them would support us. Many would call us traitors, would demand our execution, would reject everything we'd said. But some wouldn't, some would question, some would doubt. Some would demand that their leaders try harder for peace, and sometimes some is enough. As we reached the exit, I turned back to the cameras one last time. The war was meant to continue, but we refuse, and we call on everyone watching to refuse as well. Refuse to hate, refuse to accept easy answers, refuse to let fear dictate your future. Peace is possible. We prove it, now prove it yourselves. The transmission cut out. Security forces converged. But Sha'ari's hand was in mine, and for the first time in 2 years of secret meetings and hidden love, we faced the world together. The human husband and the Vexkari princess who stepped forward when everyone else wanted war, and changed everything.